If Black people had rushed the Capitol in the same way that we saw, there would have been a bloody massacre. I think what the events of this week have shown us is that there have always been multiple Americas.
The way the insurrectionists were treated by the police, they were literally coddled. They were literally given permission and a kind of white privileged opportunity to trash our Capitol.
In some ways, it sets a reality for where we are as a country. I think you hear so many times when you see events like this, oh, this is not who we are as a country. This is not who we are. Well, at some point, after you've said that over and over again, maybe it's time to acknowledge this is who we are as a country, and we can now start from this point to move forward.
You know, for so many of us in this country, we know what it is to be treated differently. And we also know what it is to be told that all of the things that we experience every single day don't exist, or that if they do exist, that it's our own fault, that we somehow created the conditions of inequality.
No one can tell me that if had been a group of Black Lives Matter protesting yesterday, they wouldn't have been treated very, very differently.
The difference between treatment of white insurrectionists versus Black Lives Matter protesters is not merely a matter of white privilege on the back end, it's a matter of white supremacy on the front end. I tweeted the comparison between the way the insurrectionists were treated in the nation's capital and the way NAACP protesters were treated when we protested in a senator's office in Mobile, Alabama. We were cuffed, ultimately put into jail, and had to go to court in order to secure our liberty.
What we saw unfold at the Capitol was not just hypocrisy, it was a manifestation of power that has been entrenched since the beginning of this nation. So much of what I saw was dismay and disbelief from my neighbors and people in my community, people who I do political work with, but a lot of those people were white. And I have to say that this notion that how did we get here and how could this country be this way, as if it was an aberration or an anomaly, is only news to people for whom the rigged rules in this country don't apply to.
When my team and I were in Minneapolis, we were handcuffed for much less than people literally breaking into the United States Capitol. And when you put those images side by side, you can't help but notice a huge difference in disparity.
These people clearly are emboldened. They don't feel any urgency to move. And the real question here, Jake, is when is law enforcement going to show up in force to try to get these people out?
So when you look at the images of people running around the Capitol with blatantly racist signs and affiliations, and the symbolism of seeing someone walk through the United States Capitol with a Confederate flag, again, seemingly untouched by law enforcement, at the very least sends a message to the Black community that your protests and your needs are going to be met with more pushback than what we saw as domestic terrorism in our United States Capitol.
The insurrectionists marched not into Mobile, Alabama, but into the nation's capital. They trashed the Capitol, they vandalized the Capitol, and literally, out of hundreds and hundreds of people who stormed the Capitol, a little over 50 were arrested hours after.
With all the work that many felt was done after the summer of 2020 on the lives, unfortunately, of people like Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and at least the shooting of Jacob Blake, there's still more work to be done.
In order for us to get to the America that we long for, the America that we hope for, the America that we imagine in our minds, it's quite critical that we begin to undo those rigged rules that allow some people to operate with impunity and other people to be punished simply for breathing.